So thanks for coming. I see some familiar faces and I see some new faces. My name is Nancy Franks and I call myself Frankly Speaking. And I'm so happy to be back because there was such a good vibe from the people here. And so it's always a good sign if I don't make it home before the person in charge is emailing me to ask me to come back. So that happened. And so I have this, and then I have one more. My last slide is going to show you where I'm appearing. And I heard a gentleman talking about how some people go from place to place to different senior centers. And so my last slide will tell you the senior centers that I'm appearing at coming up. And also I have a monthly gig in Kingston the first Friday of every month. And so I have some new presentations coming up, and that's where I'm planning to debut them unless someone schedules them before. But I have one on a look back at amusement parks of Massachusetts. And that came from ideas that I got from like the collective sighs from the people when we mentioned, now I'm going to say it incorrectly, Norumbega. Yes, did I say it correctly?
Yes. Are you doing that one here?
Maybe. Just all you have to do is say,
gee, pretty please?
Yeah, no, I'm sure if everyone wants it, she'll have me back. I'm coming back for something else one more time. And so that's coming up. And then also a new one is the Coconut Grove Fire. Wow. And that is so interesting. And I have to go back to the amusement park one. One of my big things of my presentation, of course, is my raffle at the end. And so I happen to be in Dollar Tree, where many of my raffle prizes come from. And I was looking at the puzzle.
You're gonna get a brand new car then, right?
No, Tony, you wouldn't want a car from Dollar Tree. So I was looking at their puzzles, and I saw that they had some of their nice 350-piece puzzles were of like scenes from amusement parks. So what I did is the last week I've been on a Dollar Tree like pilgrimage, buying all of the amusement park puzzles. So I'm hoping people will want to see this because otherwise I have lots of puzzles. And then I have four patriotic presentations that I do, and 2 new ones are coming up for fall, because by the time September and October rolls around, I'm predicting that no one is going to want to talk about the real election, or they'll get into a fight. So in addition to Dogs in the White House, which I have done a few different places, I also have it's Hail to the Pets, and it's about all the unusual pets that have lived in the White House over the years. And then Dining with the Presidents, and that's one of my favorites because there's so much to that. So come the fall, we're not going to get into any arguments because we're just going to be focusing on animals and food. Yeah. And so if anyone brings up the election, you'll be like, do you know that so-and-so had an alligator and so-and-so ate, so strictly that. Yes?
One of the men's groups that I belong to, okay, we're called the Dull Men's Club.
Dull?
Dull, D-U-L-L.
Okay.
Dull Men's Club, all right? And we talk about everything, no matter what, except politics and religion.
Oh my goodness.
It's taboo. We don't talk about, because nobody ever wins that kind of an
right.
argument or whatever. So politics and religion, I just, no, we don't do it at all.
Good. That's going to be my thing. I think I'll stop wearing like a pin with one of the animals' names, pictures on it. So when I do a presentation, Even though I was a teacher for 32 years in Plymouth, I don't want it to be like a school, my classroom. So feel free to shout out anytime that you want. And I also, yes?
Who handles your graphics?
I do, but I do. Thank you. And also, yes, so say whatever. Oh, and also when I do a presentation, I just pick out some fun things that you can talk about or think about if you can't sleep tonight. So it's not going, it's not going to tell you everything you need to know about Ireland, but it's just little tidbits. So of course we can't talk about St. Patrick's Day without talking about St. Patrick and who was he. We know that he's the patron saint of Ireland, born in Britain because at that time they hadn't subdivided it. And his birth name was believed to be Maewyn Succat. So if on St. Patrick's Day, if you'd want to stir up some excitement, just wish them a happy Maewyn Succat Day and then see what they say. His father was a deacon. His grandfather was a priest. He was an early believer in Christianity as a young child. And at age 16, he was taken from his family by some Irish pirates and enslaved for 6 years. He worked as a shepherd for some of that time. He discovered his faith and spent hours praying. And after 6 years, he heard a voice telling him that his ship was ready to take him home. So he traveled 200 miles to the nearest port. Now, the surprising thing is, how did he get away? How did he get away if he was enslaved? And if he could get away that easily, why did he spend 6 years there? I don't know. So he traveled 200 miles to the nearest port and persuaded the ship captain to let him stow away. So he traveled across Europe studying Christianity, and he spent much of his time in France. And here is one of the abbeys that he studied at on the French Riviera. So that was, we'd all like to study there, wouldn't we? His studies took him about 15 years, and he took the name Patrick, which means father figure, when he returned to Ireland. Oh, that's me. I was wondering, what is that noise? It's me. So he was devoted to the people of Ireland. He claimed to have been visited by an angel after returning home, and the angel gave him a message from the Irish people asking him to bring Christianity to all of the people. And his role had two purposes: to minister Christianity in Ireland and to convert the Irish who were not already believers. So he used bonfires to celebrate Easter. He created the Celtic cross, which incorporated pagan symbols. He performed baptisms and confirmations. He converted kings and wealthy women. And he is believed to have served as the first bishop of Armagh later in his life. Now, here is a myth that you'll hear about on St. Patrick's Day. I don't think you'll be able to go the whole day without hearing the word snakes, but it is a myth. So the 7th century legend claims that snakes attacked him during a fast, and he drove them to the sea. But there is no evidence of any snakes or reptiles of any kind ever to be native to Ireland. So what they believed is that the snakes were a metaphor for evils that he was trying to get rid of in Ireland. But we have missed that over the years, and now we think it's literally snakes. They're always like a cartoon where he's in a car driving them away. And so the only reptile in Ireland is the common lizard. So if he did get rid of anything, it would have been that. So he used the shamrock to explain the doctrine of the Holy Trinity, and I'll have a picture of that in just a bit. And his story, the story first began to appear in print in the 18th century, and people began pinning shamrocks on their clothes to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. So he was never formally canonized. The way that they do it now for a saint wasn't in place at the time. It was just popular acclaim. And in the 1630s, he was added to the liturgical book of Christianity. His feast day is the day of his death, which is March 17th. And he is credited with resurrecting the dead at least 33 times. So some people were apologizing for not having green on, but if on St. Patrick's Day you're wearing blue, you can tell them that St. Patrick originally was depicted wearing blue robes. So blue is actually his color. And the particular color is known as azure blue. And originally they called it St. Patrick's blue. And it's an official symbol of Ireland. And the association with green came during a rebellion against English rule. And so they were wearing a green shamrock rather than the ordained blue, and that caught on. So here is his final resting place. Most people believe that he is buried at Down Cathedral, which is located in the town of Downpatrick in Northern Ireland. And after 30 years of missionary work, he retired to Saul in County Down. But he wanted to be buried in Armagh. So he started to make his way there, 51 miles. Now, when you're thinking about where you're going to be buried, I'm guessing that you're at your later stages, and he's walking or traveling 51 miles. So he's, on his way. An angel appeared and told him to return to Saul. Like, imagine that. And so you're like, wait a minute, I've already traveled 30 miles. No, you need to go back. So in 1185, his bones were he died around the year 461. In 1185, his bones were reburied with St. Bridget and St. Columcille. I get a lot of use out of the pronunciation. Like I go online and, how do I pronounce? So there, the three of them are all buried together. And now, so if we're talking about St. Patrick, we have to stop at St. Patrick's Cathedral, and that's the National Cathedral of the Church of Ireland. Here's a look at the beautiful inside. And it's the largest church in Ireland, dedicated on March 17th, 1191. And it was built on the site of an ancient well that they believe was used by St. Patrick to baptize his converts. And this stone slab bears a Celtic cross, and it's believed to have once covered St. Patrick's well, and they didn't discover it until 1901. So stained glass windows, and we've all looked at many stained glass windows, and usually, you look and you see things going on, but you don't really know can't figure out the story. And so many of the people at the time could not read or write. So they put the religious stories from the Bible on the stained glass window. But they made it very complicated, because if you see the three windows there, you have to go over to the left and read all the way to the top. Then you go over to the right and you read all the way to the top. And then you go to the middle and read all the way to the top. So if you ever were looking at them and saying, that story doesn't make sense, probably because we were reading across, or at the very least you'd go either down or up, but you'd never imagine that they skipped over. So the center panel is always read last. And this is part of St. Patrick's Window. It tells the story of the life of St. Patrick in 39 episodes. It starts with his kidnapping from Wales and continues right up until his death and burial in Ireland. It was installed in the 19th century during the Guinness Restoration period. So if you are drinking Guinness and someone tells you that that's a waste of time, you can then say that they helped when the cathedral was being restored. So you can all have a Guinness to be thankful to them. So this is the tile floor, and it's a recreation of some medieval tiles that were found when Christ Church was restored in the second half of the 19th century. And just look.
How neat.
I know, it's so neat. So there is people are buried there, and one of them that we know of is Jonathan Swift, and we know him because he wrote Gulliver's Travels. In 1682, he entered Trinity College at age 14. He graduated 4 years later, so when everyone else was, the same age that we graduated from high school, he was graduating from college. In 1713, he served as the dean of St. Patrick's Cathedral, so that's why he's buried there. 1726, he published Gulliver's Travels. Now, here's the sad part. In 1742, he was declared of unsound mind and memory. And now I'm going to forget, is it Meniere's disease? So when they described everything all the symptoms, they realized he had vertigo, he had problems with his ear, all things that now we wouldn't think, we wouldn't necessarily, we would treat it, we wouldn't say that the person was crazy. So sadly, he was a little too early for that. 1742, he died. He left his estate to Ireland's first mental hospital because he believed that he was mentally ill. So here is his grave, and there is, or his memorial on the floor, and there's the memorial to Esther Johnson, who he nicknamed Stella. And with all of these things that I report on, sometimes it just sends me down a rabbit hole. So I wanted to know, was that his girlfriend? And he didn't, it was his special friend. So we don't really know. But in what I was reading, he put her on a pedestal, and she gave up a lot of her life being devoted to him. So it's only fitting that she gets a tile right next to him. So he wrote his own epitaph, which appears on a black slab with gold lettering. And it is located close to his grave, and there is his death mask. So there is a saying called chancing your arm, and it is believed that this is the place where it came to be. And so the expression means to take a risk, chance your arm. And so there was a family feud in 1492, and it almost sounds a little like West Side Story or Romeo and Juliet. So there were the Butlers and the Fitzgeralds, and they were having a bitter feud over who would become the Lord Deputy of Ireland, the British monarch's representative in Ireland. So it sort of sounds like our election. So violence erupted between the two families, and there were small skirmishes outside of Dublin. And so, realizing that it was getting out of control, the butlers went into St. Patrick's Cathedral, and they were in the chapter house, a section of the cathedral, hiding out from the Fitzgeralds. So the Fitzgeralds followed them to the cathedral and tried to get them to come out and make peace. But the butlers were fearful that they would be slaughtered if they agreed, so they refused and they remained inside the cathedral. So the Fitzgeralds, I think this is funny, his name was Gerald Fitzgerald, which is, where is that coming from? Oh, is that your phone?
No. I thought it was on your tape.
No.
Maybe it's outside.
Oh. Oh.
They're doing something.
Oh, okay. All right. So Gerald Fitzgerald,
Hear it.
why did his mom name him that, was the head of the Fitzgeralds, and so he ordered a hole to be cut in the door to the room where the butlers were. So can you imagine if you were the butlers, you'd be like up against the wall, you see this saw coming in, and you're like, this is not going to end well. Yeah. But it did. Now that's present time photo. We don't have a photo of the Fitzgeralds, but Gerald Fitzgerald placed his arm through the hole, offering his hand in a sign of peace. And the butlers reasoned that Gerald Fitzgerald was serious in intentions, and if he was willing to risk his arm. And so the butlers came out, and the two families made peace. I wonder if we could do that here. Since I'm being taped, I don't want to get political. Yeah. So this is now, it's called the Door of Reconciliation, but we may want to borrow this in November. Yeah. And so you can see the door that was cut. And also, next or soon, the cathedral will be lit up green to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. Now, we can't talk about St. Patrick's Day without talking about leprechauns. Now, when I think it was 1991, I spent a summer studying. It was for teachers, and it was in Galway, Ireland, and it was going to just be all about Ireland. So, being a second grade teacher, I'm thinking we're going to learn about like leprechauns and shillelaghs and like. No, it wasn't. It was very serious, very serious. No talk of leprechauns. But they are an important part of Irish folklore. And where did they come from? This is, it's kind of a strange story, but they're believed to be part of the fairy family, and they are believed to be descendants of Tuatha Danann. And so a group of magical beings served under her, and they lived in Ireland long before humans inhabited the land. And they were all incredibly beautiful. This doesn't sound like a leprechaun. They were tall, slight men and women with very light, delicate features, blue, gray, or green eyes, and long golden hair. So this is who they say leprechauns descended from. And so the name leprechaun can be translated, or it comes from the word for small body, and also because leprechauns are known to be shoemakers, the word for shoemaker also is where the name is derived from. So there are no records of female leprechauns. So they believe, this is sad, they may be the unwanted children of the fairy community. So I would never want that to be taught to children. Early folk tales claimed leprechauns lived underwater. They once wore red, not green. So if on St. Patrick's Day you're wearing red, you could say, well, I'm a leprechaun. They're described as sly, untidy, ugly, sneaky, grouchy, untrusting, and solitary creatures. I know, just terrible. When I taught second grade, I made them so nice and cute. Capturing leprechauns will bring you good luck and 3 wishes. And many, many years I had of children making leprechaun traps. So there is, even though the Irish really don't embrace leprechauns, as there is a leprechaun museum, because they're going to cash in on it a little bit. So there is a giant's room where everything is big, so you're the size of a leprechaun. And then you can walk through a rainbow. And then there's a nighttime Darkland tour, which offers adults some of the more disturbing tales of Irish folklore. You would like that. I know we have someone here who loves Lizzie Borden and all of those tales. So yeah, put that on your list. So when was the last leprechaun sighting in Ireland? Well, there was one right here. And to me, it sounds like a man who wanted to put his bar on the map, but you can be the judge. So in 1989, Carlingford resident and pub owner P.J. O'Hare was working in the garden outside his home at the foot of Slave Foy Mountain, and he heard a high-pitched scream like that of a terrified child. Alarmed by the scream, Mr. O'Hare rushed up the mountain to investigate. After climbing several hundred feet, he came upon a cavern in the side of the mountain. It was the site of a freshwater spring once used as a well by the residents of Carlingford. When PJ stepped inside the cavern, he discovered a small patch of scorched earth that contained the tiny charred human bones surrounded by a green suit and a hat. Inside the pockets of the green suit next to the tiny body, which appeared to have spontaneously combusted, were 4 gold coins. The leprechaun suit and bones are exhibited in his pub. So if you want to see them, you need to go to his pub, and maybe you should have a drink and something to eat. But the mystery is what happened to the gold coins. I can almost buy the fact that he found, like I can get into that he found the suit, but what about the little bones? He probably didn't let anyone analyze them before he put them behind glass in his pub. So today, Carlingford itself is a thriving tourist destination as the supposed home of Ireland's last leprechaun. Thanks to the work of the residents, Carlingford leprechauns are on the EU's list of endangered, threatened species. The leprechaun bones and suit are on display in a glass case. People from around the world visit the pub each year. So good job, PJ, for that's what I call, good PR. So let's talk about shamrocks. The first evidence of a link between St. Patrick and the shamrock appeared in 1675 on the St. Patrick's coppers, or halfpennies. And the coin shows a figure of St. Patrick preaching to a crowd while holding a shamrock as he explains the doctrine of the Holy Trinity. And so there is how he would do it, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And so he has traveled through Ireland. He used the 3-leaf clover to teach people about Christianity. He said the leaves illustrated the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So some people believe that shamrocks represent other things: mind, body, spirit, land, sea, sky, underworld, middle world, upper world, love, wisdom, truth, nature, knowledge, and truth. Now, here's something you could do on St. Patrick's Day. The phrase drowning the shamrock comes from the custom of floating a shamrock in your whiskey before downing it. And then the shamrock, I'm picturing then you're like suddenly choking because it's in your throat. If that happens, I didn't tell you to do this. I need to have a disclaimer. But the shamrock hopefully is now at the bottom of your glass, and then you throw it over the drinker's left shoulder, this one. And the Irish believe that if you do this, you'll have a prosperous year. If you choke on it, probably you won't have a very good year, so don't do that. So the shamrock is used in the emblems of many state organizations, both in the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. And if you've ever flown on Aer Lingus, the official airline of Ireland, the shamrock has been on their logo, for over 80 years. And then for good luck, shamrocks may be included in the bouquet of an Irish bride or in the boutonniere of the groom. And there is a tradition of the Prime Minister of Ireland, or the President of Ireland, giving shamrocks to the President of the United States on March 17th or close to it. So that was JFK. And here we have George H.W. Bush. And there's Bill Clinton. And here's George W. Bush. And President Barack Obama. And there's Joe Biden saying, someday I hope someone gives them to me. And there's Donald Trump getting them. And there is Joe Biden saying, see, I told you I was going to get my own shamrocks. So this gentleman might be extra lucky. He's not from Ireland, but we had to include him. He's a Japanese farmer, and he bred a 56 leaf clover. And he said, I never dreamed of seeing this many leaves on a clover. So how do you count something like that? He placed decals on the leaves as he counted them to make sure his tally was correct. I like that. As a former math teacher, that was very clever. So the Cliffs of Moher, maybe you have visited them. Absolutely beautiful. This was one of our places that we went during my summer studying in Ireland, and just absolutely breathtaking. 702 feet at the highest point, stretching over 8.7 miles. They're 300 million years old, and obviously they don't look the same as they did then. There's coastal erosion that undermines the base of the bluff, and it causes the upper parts of the cliff to collapse. And there are signs, but people walking on top of the cliff are risking their lives without even realizing it. And they can easily slip, get blown off by the wind, and they can go down with a collapsing piece. But do people listen to these signs? No, they don't. Okay. Now, again, I'm saying do not try this. Can you imagine?
No.
Do not do that. Look at that. I know. It's just so crazy. But as my mother always said when I was growing up, they're not going to get hurt. You are, you know. And then this is neat. Sometimes there are these crazy waves, and so people surf right at the base. That looks a little safer, and even that I don't think I would do. Or you can look for the Cliffs of Moher Puffin. I know, don't you don't think of them. They burrow into the cliffs and nest in the grassy hillside, most visible May and June. And there are also other birds there. So here is Hag's Head. It's an unusual rock formation at the most southerly point, and it is said to resemble a woman's head looking out to sea when viewed from the north. And I sort of can see it. I never, like, whenever people say, like, oh, can you see this? I usually just agree. But I'm guessing, do you think this is her? What is this? Oh, is that her nose? Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Okay.
You're the woman of the mountain.
Yeah, exactly. So here's the legend. The local Irish legend tells of how an old hag called Mal, she fell in love with the Irish hero Chulan, and she chased him all over Ireland. Pretty good for an old hag, though, don't you think? You have to admire that. So, of course, he did not return his feelings, and he finally ended up at Loop Head in County Clare, and he was cornered by Mal. So as he was a superhero of sorts, he saw an exit route and made his escape by hopping across sea stacks, like that one there, towards the cliffs of Moher, using them like stepping stones. Mal, not so nimble as he was, went following after him, but lost her footing and was dashed to pieces against the cliff. Like, evidently those bike riders have not heard this because they wouldn't be doing it. They say the sea turned red where she fell all the way to the cliffs, and Mal Bay is thought to be named after her. So there she sits, even though she was all crushed up. So here is Moher Tower, and that is a single, nearly square tower built around 1808. And similar towers were built all along the Atlantic coast to counter fears of invasion. And it's just amazing to me because how would you get up those cliffs to invade? And yes, very carefully. This one appears to have a fireplace and at least 2 floors, but the dry stone roof has mostly caved in. And I always like to see what places look like when they're covered with snow. Look at that. But look, what are those people doing out walking? Go home. And it's a beautiful place to have your wedding and have your photos taken. Although you better be careful that you don't get too close. Don't get carried away when you're kissing on the edge of the cliff. Okay, so now we're going to eat. And I have to say, like growing up with an Irish mother and then spending an entire summer in Ireland, not really known for their food. And maybe that was just my experience, but I want you to use your hand. If I'm going to introduce some foods, and if it sounds amazing and you want to go to Ireland right now to have some, 5. If it sounds great, you'd love to try it, 4. Sounds good, 3. Maybe not, 2. I'd try it if there was nothing else to eat. And then absolutely never. And we may have some absolutely nevers in here. If I wasn't being filmed, I would tell you some stories of eating in Ireland, but I don't want them to. They'll go viral. So some colcannon. This, I don't want to influence you. Mashed potato with kale or cabbage, scallions, and lots of butter and cream. I'm saying 5 for that. No? You don't like mashed potato?
I like mashed potatoes, but not with that.
Oh, come on. Look at just...
Before, did not like it.
Really? What was it that you didn't like?
I don't like cabbage, I don't like scallions, and I don't like kale.
Okay. All right. 5. Okay. How about this? Some nice black and white pudding. Pudding has such a, like, I think of a snack pack of chocolate pudding, and that, but no, black pudding made by mixing pig or cow blood with pork or beef, suet, and a grain, usually oatmeal, and then stuffing the mixture into a casing. So basically a sausage. White pudding typically uses oatmeal or barley, pork or suet, breadcrumbs, spices, and occasionally pork meat or pork liver. What are you doing with that?
Yeah.
I'm doing it. All right. 5?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Can't leave anything.
Oh my goodness, I guess. I know.
Good, too.
If I knew where to get some, I'd bring it the next time and make you eat it. Okay. This looks good. Barmbrock, and it's a yeast bread with added golden raisins and traditional raisins. I'm going to give that a 5. Yeah.
They're the best.
Okay, this is interesting. A crisp sandwich. Slabs of white bread spread with butter and potato chips. I'm giving that a 1.
That might be a
1, yeah. Like, because I could dissect it. I could take the bread and then I could eat the chips. You think a 5?
I love chips.
Have you ever made them in a sandwich?
No, but I'm
No,
gonna
I'm
try.
trying.
Yes. So if you want to have some friends over on St. Patrick's Day and you don't want to go through the trouble of corned beef and cabbage, tell them you're serving them.
potato sandwich.
Yes, a potato chip sandwich. Invite them over. No fuss, and tell them you're inviting them over to have a traditional Irish treat. They'll think it's corned beef and cabbage. Okay, and then Irish stew. A stew that is traditionally made with root vegetables and lamb or mutton, but also commonly with beef. Looks like a beef stew. And because it's thick, I would give it a try. I think this was what my mother was trying to do when she made beef stew. But yes, Irish soda bread, the best part of St. Patrick's Day for me. A quick bread made from flour, baking soda, salt, and buttermilk, and sodium bicarbonate is used as a leavening agent instead of the traditional yeast. I'm going with a 5. No?
No chips in it.
All right.
No, I'm
It
not-
is, you know what, it is dry. So when I spent the summer in Ireland, I lived with a family. First day we arrived, the soda bread was fresh out of the oven. It was so soft and warm and like lather it with butter. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna love this. That was probably the same bread she served the rest of the time. It was always hard, always dry. So I'm giving a 5 for this, if it's fresh. Oh, look at this. A Guinness cake, chocolate cake, and made of cocoa butter and beer. And it has a cream cheese frosting to resemble the foamy head of a glass of Guinness. This to me, that's like 10. I'm ready to go now.
I'll try it.
That looks delicious. Now, it would be really nice if I could pass it out now while we listen to some harp music. So Trinity College harp. It's displayed at Trinity College in Dublin. 29 strings. The longest string is about 24.5 inches. Date back to the 14th or 15th century. It's the oldest of 3 medieval harps, and it's used. This one was used as a model for the coat of arms of Ireland, and it was believed to be owned by Brian Boru, the High King of Ireland, around the year 1000. So there's the coat of arms, there's the harp. So a left-facing image of the Trinity College harp has been used as the national symbol of Ireland since 1922. The image was specifically granted to the state by the Chief Herald of Ireland in 1945. But you may say to yourself, that looks awfully familiar, because you see it reversed on Guinness. An image of the right-facing Trinity College harp was registered as a trademark for Guinness in 1876. It was first used on their labels in 1862. And since I'm being filmed, I need a disclaimer. I do not have permission to show the harp, but so we're going to listen to some harp music. And let's say just a little bit, because it's so beautiful. And it will click. There we go.
Sounds very piano-like.
It does, doesn't it? So now we're off to the Aran Islands, and I'm looking at your Irish knit sweater. It might be from the Aran Islands. So the Aran Islands are 3 rocky isles guarding the mouth of Galway Bay in Western Ireland, and they're known for their ancient sites. And so there you see, there's Inishmore, which means big island, and the area is 12 square miles. Population of about 1,000, and it means middle island. Oh no, Inishmaan means middle island, and that has an area of 3.6 square miles, a population of 200, and then Inisheer, no translation, an area of 2.2 miles with a population of about 300. So why would you settle there?
What do they do for employment, the people?
Tourism and anything related to tourism and sweaters, crafts. So why would you ever want to live there? The land would have been a refuge from attackers. I think I'd rather be on top of the cliffs of Moher rather than out in that island. They could be defended from all sides, but to me that's a disadvantage because now you have to worry about all sides. They had a clear view of oncoming boats that could pose a possible threat. Again, on top of the cliffs of Moher, you can see a little better, but...
You know, I read online recently that the Irish government is extending financial incentives for people to go and live there.
To live...
Islands, yes.
Really?
Yes, to help increase the population.
Oh, wow. So check it out. Maybe we want to go.
Read it about a month ago.
Wow, that's interesting. So in the 19th and 20th century, travel to the islands was typically carried out by a boat with a wooden frame and stretched animal skin. Now you can take a ferry from Galway. So we're looking at Inishmore. There are only 4 options for exploring the island: foot, bike, with a horse and cart, or a minibus. So there, you have to surrender your car if you take them up on that offer. But my dad always made us stop to look at stone walls. Yeah. So when I was there, I was like, oh my God, he would have loved this, because we'd be driving down the road. What's wrong? Car trouble? No, there's a stone wall. So look at that. We could, if we took them up on their offer, we could work on the stone walls. And there are fewer than 100 vehicles on Inishmore, and the majority of them seem to be minivans. So you can't have one of your own just to transport people. So a lot of bike riding. So this is, it's a fort, Dun Angishta Fort. And it may have been built as early as 1200 BC. And this was one of the places that we went. And like, look at these rocks, because we're going to see a close-up of those. And look how well protected this would be. So it's 14.3 acres, this massive structure. It's a semicircular wall enclosed along 3 other concrete walls. So imagine if someone was coming from the other side of the island and that's the fort, they have to make it over these walls to get to you. There's no fence or barrier at the edge. So that could be a little dangerous if you are prone to falling. But look at these rocks, and here is a close-up of them. And I remember when we went, and like we get off our minibus, and we were walking to the fort, and trying to get around those, like, you know, your first thought is like, who did this? Someone needs to clean these up. But this is how they made them, because they were smart. Rather than just putting up barriers, that went straight up. They're going every which way. And this is between the third and fourth wall. And they used to be about 6 feet in height. I believe they've shrunk down a little bit. Sharp and deadly slope towards one another, making passage slow and difficult. So there was no storming the fort, and it kept intruders away. Look at this. There is a view from up above. And imagine if you ever did make it to the fort, I imagine someone would just go like this to you and take care of you. Look at that. Like, who would approach them? Unless they came from the other side. This side, I think, is, I just can't get enough of looking at that. Now, I never saw this, just 1 mile. So I was at the fort, but just 1 mile from there is something that I am obsessed with, and it's called the wormhole. Now you look at that little box and you think, oh, someone wanted to put up a hotel, so they made a swimming pool. No, that is 100% natural. And it is a perfect rectangle. And so when the tide is in, water rushes into the hole, coming through underground caves, and forces the water over the edge and fills the hole. So imagine that. So look at this person. Okay, again, really? Did you really think you should go there to take a photo? And that's what she was doing. But she is the luckiest person on earth because she lived. These were the headlines after. Student lucky to be alive after getting swept off rocks by giant wave and landing 40 feet below at Aran Island's wormhole. Couple hailed as heroes after rescuing student swept off cliff. Caught on video. That's the best part, because the people did help her, but they also got the most amazing video of her. And it is online. Giant wave sweeps woman off cliff in Ireland. So that is what happened next. She was swept off of that. And all you have to do online is look for wormhole accident, and you will come right to the video. It's fascinating. So as if someone was looking out for her, because the people who witnessed it, a lot of people would have witnessed it and said, whoa, there's no way I can help her. That might have been me. A paramedic and a teacher. Now the teacher's going to be like, we've got to help her. And then the paramedic knows what to do. So they sprang into action. We were about to go. Imagine that. They were about to leave. So they could have like turned their back and then she goes in. When we saw this girl taking a video by the edge of the cliff, a giant wave came and just swept her off and down onto the rocks below. We could see her almost being swept out to sea. So I took out my phone to dial 999, but of course there was no reception. So the wife ran to the nearest house to get help and call the Coast Guard or whoever. Now imagine that, you're in the water and the person's got to run. You're like, they'll never get me. I could see the girl trying to limp away to safety, but she couldn't manage it. So fortunately she was on rocks, but you don't know when the next wave is going to come. Right. Her mother, imagine, why did the mother let her go out there? Her mother was hysterical. And I went over to see if I could reach the girl, but I couldn't. We got part of the way, but no further. It was very dangerous. Other people came and we managed to get an army-type jacket and a backpack, and we hooked the jacket to the backpack, so they're lowering it down. The makeshift rescue rope was lowered to the woman, and she tightened the backpack around her waist while Mr. McCarthy and another visitor managed to pull her slowly up the cliff with one arm of the jacket. Like just lucky. And he said, It was still dangerous on the cliff ledge, I bet. And we sat down to calm her before getting her all the way to safety. He managed to stabilize her ankle and kept her warm before the rescue helicopter arrived and whisked her across Galway Bay to a hospital. Yesterday, the woman who was injured said that the couple had saved her life. She was a student of economics in London. So when you see that, you're like, oh, the person doesn't know better. She knew better. She had only started taking a video of the scenery when she saw the wave coming at her. I tried to run, but it pushed me straight down. It was like being in a waterfall, and that probably cushioned the fall. I was so scared because I thought the wave was going to come again. My ankle was completely smashed, and the pain was bad. Seamus saved my life, and the policeman there was also wonderful. Everyone was so helpful to me. So her father, a consultant gynecologist, flew from Calcutta to be with his wife and at his daughter's bedside. He was waiting to personally thank the couple when they arrived back in Galway. And the paramedic said, I only did what anyone would have done. I'm like, no, you didn't, because most people wouldn't do that. So the Irish Water Safety confirmed that the man who rescued her, the paramedic, will receive a SECO Just in Time award for his life-saving action. So he got a watch. So what more could you want? Now, you say, who would ever, like no one would ever want to go into that water. Like, she made a mistake. No one would ever go in. Oh yeah. In 2014, Red Bull had their cliff diving World Series there. Like seriously. And again, you're going to see lots of pictures of this because I am obsessed with who would do that. So there is, that blue thing up there is the diving board. And you go in there. And there isn't anything around you like a cushion should you. So look at that guy. Like, can you imagine? Like you would just getting up there and walking down would be too scary. Now that's me. That's me if I was there having second thoughts. Look at that. Like how can you even know? Or a strong wind comes up. Look at all the boats out there watching.
Who's taking those pictures?
Someone up high. I don't know. Maybe a drone. I'm guessing a drone. Yeah. Not a person. Look at that. Like, how can it be? Now, by the time you get there, you're feeling pretty good. That's when you're happy. Look at that. Like, how do you even know? And then, look at that. I know. Yeah. I think I'd rather ride the bike.
The people up on the ledge.
I know, looking at that. And so this one I love because that's like one of those timed. And so those are all the things that he's doing. And I was going to make a joke because I'm looking at all the pictures. I'm like, man. Oh, a woman wouldn't be foolish enough. Yep, there is. Yeah, I know. Right. Just every picture is just more amazing than the next. Look at that. Like, if you look, you would think that all of a sudden he's going to fall, right? Like, I think if you ever, panicked and, moved your arm or something, forget it. So, if you don't want to do that, you can stop and buy a sweater. And you have to be very careful when you're buying sweaters because, of course, there's so many tourists coming. They probably have some that were not made by hand. But Aran knitters are highly skilled, and they could work from memory and create lines of intricate stitching. And each fisherman had his own individual stitching pattern. according to their family. So it was almost like a crest, a family crest. The unique sweaters enabled fishermen to be identified if they were washed up from the sea. So that's kind of sad aspect of it. But they were accidentally waterproof. So they didn't know, they didn't say, I'm going to knit a waterproof sweater. The women who were knitting them said, you need a warm sweater. It's going to be cold out there. But the yarn was unwashed wool. And if you knit something from unwashed wool, it has its natural lanolin. And so that made it water resistant. So it would not feel wet even after absorbing 25% of its weight in water. So that is amazing. And now I love seeing the sheep as you travel around Ireland, but to identify them, the first time I saw her, it was like, oh my God, why did someone spray paint an X on their sheep? And they used like orange, fluorescent orange. And then as time went on, I realized that, one farm would do fluorescent orange X and the other one would do like a lime green T. And that was so that no one stole their sheep.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Would you know if anyone were to take one of those sweaters and wash it in the washing machine, would it get rid of the
Yes.
waterproof?
Yes. So you couldn't. So basically, that is a good point. You couldn't wash it at all because you had to so you were probably wearing the same sweater, such as it is for years and years and years.
Thank you.
So here are some of the patterns. And let's see, we have someone there. Ooh, look at that, the diamond. Wealth, I think that's wealth. Wow, we've identified that. So these are some of the translation for these. And the Aran sweater increased when these photographs of Grace Kelly appeared in major American magazines. And so she is wearing an Aran sweater, and then everyone wanted to wear. So you always hear about shillelaghs, and the Leprechaun has a shillelagh. And so why not get a shillelagh from shillelagh? So the ideal place to buy a shillelagh is the village of Shillelagh. So Shillelagh Village is in County Wicklow, probably not on your radar if someone's traveling to Ireland. It was a planned village in the 17th century. In 2016, they had a population of 337, but it is home to an authentic blackthorn shillelagh. So there he is. So why not purchase from his family business? So it is a walking stick, typically made from blackthorn stick. Oak is very scarce in Ireland. And so when you look at that, the blackthorn tree, you can see how some of the character would be. So making it, if you were to go to shillelagh, you would have to buy one that they've already made, not one specifically for you, because it's a long process and it takes 2 to 5 years. So you can't just say, we're going to grab lunch, we'll be back and we'll pick it up, because no, that would be 2 to 5 years. From the moment the stick is cut until the moment that the owner receives it. They put the stick up a chimney for several months, and the soot made it turn black. And others, I'd want the one that was going up in the chimney because others were buried in a dung pile. So that, who knows, maybe that would be fast tracking it. It was treated with oils and sealants, and the size is half the height of the user. So I saw some that said, like, you put your arm like this, and that would be the ideal. or half the height. And the authentic shillelagh has a wristband, so you can hold on to it. Now, some sticks are lead. The head of the stick can have lead added, and that you could use for personal protection. And people did. So there is shillelagh fighting, and it dates back thousands of years. It progressed from spear, staff, axe, and sword. So they, what can we do next? How about a shillelagh fight? Fathers gave shillelaghs to their sons as a rite of passage. And fighting at fairs was popular in the 1800s. And so shillelagh fighting today is considered a martial art. I tried to look up to see, just in case you wanted to start shillelagh fighting. We need to bring that to the Whitman Senior Center. I couldn't find a place in Boston, wherever. So we'll have to really look if we want to start that. So we're going to end with when Irish, yes? Yes.
There's a little Irish shop right here in Whitman.
Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness.
Where I got this sweater.
Wow. So
Great shop.
I don't know if those are lead loaded, so you can check that out.
Walk up this way and take a right there on the right-hand side.
Really?
Go to Dunkin' Donuts and take a right there in that little
Oh, wow.
Dunkin' Donuts.
There's
Hi.
another one in Marshfield, Galway girls.
Wow.
They just had it on.
All right, go get a shillelagh and we'll have a fight when I come here next time.
But we're not talking politics.
No, yeah, right. So what are Irish eyes that are smiling? Blue. More than half of the population in Ireland has blue eyes, 57%. Ireland ranks number 6 on the list of countries with the most blue-eyed people. And I knew you would say, well, what's number 1? Estonia and Finland share the number 1 spot. They have 89%. And the United States, number 17. We just have 16.6. Does anyone here have blue eyes? Okay. Oh my goodness. Half of the blue-eyed people are here right now. What a coincidence. We only have 16%, and it's almost 50% of this
What about
group.
green eyes?
Well, let's talk about, do you have green eyes? Oh my goodness. Over 75% of the people who are born with green eyes are found in Ireland and Scotland. Green eyes in Ireland are usually olive or medium green. What are yours? Would you say they're olive?
Hazel.
Hazel.
Oh,
Just about to hazel.
oh, yours are hazel?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So hazel eyes with a green iris with a ring of brown or amber near the pupil are also common in Ireland. Wow, so if we took the green eyes and the blue-eyed people, the browns, we're definitely outnumbered. So babies are born with blue or brown eyes, and green eyes take 6 months to 3 years to appear in children. So the song When Irish Eyes Are Smiling, that goes back to 1912, and the lyrics were written by 2 men born in New York, and the music by Ernest Ball, born in Ohio. But it was Bing Crosby who popularized it here. It was popular during the First World War. It's been recorded on over 200 singles and albums. And Bing Crosby, Connie Francis, Perry Como, and Roger Whittaker. Now here is President Ronald Reagan and the Canadian Prime Minister, Brian Mulroney. They sang When Irish Eyes Are Smiling on St. Patrick's Day 1985, and they were in Quebec City, and Mulroney was criticized because they didn't like to see United States and Canadians getting so chummy. I know, that surprised me because I was actually, when I was doing a run through this morning, I was actually thinking, I wonder why, because I always thought we got along. So we're going to, oops. So we're going to, we're going to sing now. All of the versions that I found are very, hold on, I have to go back. They're very not as upbeat as, so created, not as upbeat as people usually. We're going to go with Bing Crosby, but he is not super upbeat. All right, you're still on. Okay, and of course you're going to sing along. Now, usually, traditionally, this is repeated twice. It's kind of melancholy. So I know. And Irish hearts are happy. All the world seems bright and gay. And when Irish eyes are smiling, we're still okay, and so that wraps it up, but so I'm going to turn the light on and do our raffle, but these are my upcoming presentations. March 13th, America's First Ladies with Ties to Massachusetts, that's in Duxbury. April 4th, Escape to Paris at the Kingston Council on Aging. April 22nd, the Great Molasses Flood right here. And of course, it'll be followed by a shillelagh fight. And then back to May 5th, the World Columbian Exposition of 1893, the World's Fair, where we got, changed the world. That's a good one, and that's in Kingston.